How's it going, everybody? Hey, Abdul, John, Marco, Kai, Matwez. Hey, Homer. Homer, nothing. That's Nigel. Aloysius. Brian, good morning. Nice bright day today. Hi, Paul. Hi, Steve. God, put my lights away. Hey, Donald. How's it going? We've got a number of things I think we need to kick around, so let's get started. First of all, hi, you just Graham Maruzio. Hi, Maruzio. How's it going? Good to see you. All right. For you new guys, what we do every week, every Sunday at 11 o'clock New York time is that we have a meeting where we go over a number of things in terms of where the production is and things we got to talk about. And so this is what we're going to be doing. This is not like a chat group, believe me. It's more like it is a discussion group, though. So it's a difference in focus. So let's get started. The very first thing, and this affects Paul and Kirk and Benny. We need to get all the shipping addresses, and I'll be sending everybody. I'll be sending Paul and Kirk a reminder on that. So anyway, that was the first thing I wanted to let you know. Paul, do you have any update on that? Anything? I've been getting lists, and well, we got two different things going on. We got the number 2 group, the number 3 group, both of which we're having to get straightened out right now. Okay, so that's pretty much what we need on that. Hi, Dan. Right now, just the okay. I have all the addresses, the email, phone numbers. Phone numbers are more problematic, I can imagine. We'll try and what we can try to do, if you send me the addresses, I'll put them. I have to keep them in a group because we're going to be shipping. The first shipment we had, we shipped the Asia, Australia, then the US, and then the European. And then we just shifted it. And this time we'll be shipping the US, European, and then the Asian, Australian. And then Etude number 3, it'll be the European group first, the Asian, Australian group, and then finally the US group on number 3. So the first thing we're going to be doing, I think, I don't know. I'm trying to remember exactly when we get the hands. As soon as we get the hands, we should have enough. I think we'll have like 25 dials. So anyway, these are some things that we're considering right now. How it's going to go. The very first ones we want to go to our designer Matu. And this is really the one we have for the GPHG, and so he can, he sort of a white wolf, and he can go out and all of the people that he knows he can hang out with. Okay, then we're sending one to the Horological Society of New York. This is our charity. We're sending them a pink one. Both of these will be number 00. I'm hoping that we can get as we sort of string everything out. They do a really good chronometer test, and last time I had mine done, and came out great. And I thought, well, it'd be a good idea is that right initially, if they could do a chronometer test while still judgment going on about nominations, if we could get a positive result early on, that'd be great because I talked to the executive director and he said, yeah, they would go ahead and do the chronometer test for us. Normally it costs $150. They'll do it at no charge. I mean, we are giving them a pretty nice watch and they get one of the rare pink ones. All right. So those are going to be the initial allocations. Yeah. Okay, Paul. Yes. Thank you. Please do that. If you send it to me, and then I think I'll check with Kirk. I know that some of the US addresses have been updated, and then I'll get a hold of Benny and have him do the same. I know that right now it's like, I think 11 o'clock at night where Benny is. So that's where we'll be going on that. Okay. Oh, yeah. Last time, the one thing that we had questions about was the bands. Okay. Apparently, I guess they're putting the buckles together. Uh, as you may or may not remember, the buckles are being done by Bosley Door. They're a little different than last time, but the same. This time, and I think we're going from instead of 20 to taper to 18, it tapers to 16. And so they're going to need a different buckle that has a similar size. Otherwise, it should look just the same as our first one. Okay, on that. This is all about Etude number 2. Okay. Yeah, I'll try to get more precise delivery date. Okie doke. Any questions about Etude number 2 from anybody and everybody? Okie doke. Okay, that's all I've got. I'll try to get more precise information about the straps. And Matthew said the guy isn't very good about communicating. Now let's see if we can encourage his communication somehow. The reason I'd like to do it pretty quickly is that I'll check the invoices, but I want to get these paid as soon as we can because January, February, I believe the first quarter, we're going to get all of our first quarter VAT back. And the more that we pay now, the more we'll get it back that we can have. It'll maybe provide a little buffer for us. We'll see. Okay. Cases, Etude number 3. Now, the cases are critical because we had decided that we're going to really stick with a budget this time. And I think we had paid a whole lot for the ones we got. Now, I'm not saying that anything is wrong with what they were doing, but rather we needed a case that was one that would be, I think we allocated 950 Swiss francs to it. So we needed a case that it didn't have to be a not nice case. And so when Matthew came up with the 4 concepts, the one that we liked was concept number 4. Now, Wooten, Lannon, and Caton had said they may be able to do number 2, but then they wanted to remove some, I think the coin edge kind of fluting that Matthew had done. Of course, being a designer, he wasn't happy with that. Last time I had a picture that they read. This is the way, just the way they're operating. Now, uh, what happened, there was supposed to be a meeting last week between Atelier Gross and uh, Matthew and Nicholas Viderek. What happened? It was really funny. I was sort of like, this is a matter of Swiss efficiency. Both were ready for the meeting at their respective places. so Agenhor and Matthew were at Agenhor, and Cyril Gross was at the Gross place. So anyway, one of the advantages of the of Gross would be that they are in Geneva, and I think Woutenland and Caton were someplace else, forgot where. But this would be nice. Also, too, I think there's a pretty good relationship already that exists between Gross and Agenor, which is important. And so another thing I said, look, when you go see them, take concept number 4 and see if we can get that for within our budget. So we'll see what happens. So they are going to have another meeting on Tuesday at Gross's factory. They're meeting with Cyril Gross, who is the son of the founder, Cyril. They seem to know him pretty well, so that's a good thing. Some of the others who have had cases done there include Laurent Ferrier, Van Cleef and Arpels, Fabergé, Urweg. Nice group. I mean, none of those are schlock cases that they have. Okay, Hader, do we have a date deadline for the entry of the GPHG? Good question, Hader. The answer is no. They will probably contact me like they did before. But I think you just came up with a great idea. What I'll do is that there's this particular woman who seems to be in charge of that, and I've gone back and forth with her. Last time was, I guess, not greatly embarrassing, but we had entered Etude number 2. I had done all the paperwork and got everything ready for it, and then we found out there was no way that we would have a watch ready in case we had nominations, at which time then we'd have to be, if we were nominated, we'd have to present them with one. So I'll contact her and tell her, okay, this time we're going to be ready. They may be pink, but we'll be ready. Hey, Dan, Laurent Ferrier cases are excellent. Yeah. This is one of the things, Dan, I'm glad you brought that up. I don't think we need to compromise in the quality. We have to keep an eye on the budget because, running over the budget is no fun at all, especially for those of us who have to somehow gather together. So that's, and Gross is really good. I'm hoping we can do that. We'll see what happens after their meeting on Tuesday. If they can, probably what will happen is that Cyril Gross will go to Agenor and Matthew and some days. Okay. Mario, how you doing? Glad to see you. Glad you could make it. All right. So that's the thing on the case. Yeah, I agree. I think it's good too. Rather than going in is like, rather sort of with our hat in hand, what are you going to charge us? We're going in. This is our budget. This is the general design we want. I think we had, our first design, in fact, our first 2 designs, is fairly complex. I didn't realize how complex they were. I think they're something like 5 pieces or something. So I'm hoping that that'll get rolling pretty quickly. The the case, of course, the actual case will depend on what the AGH 6850 is going to look like exactly. I mean, all the dimensions and everything. Um, I don't know what differences there will be, if any. They may be able to keep it within the same one, but when we had just by adding the Guilloche, they had to change something somewhere, and so we had to redo the whole cases, and I don't want that to happen again. Okay. Okay. This is the next thing is Etude number 3, getting everything right. Um, Aloysius, yeah, the plan is right now for that. Aloysius, I would like to. I hope we work with Metalim again. I really like working with those guys before. Um, we have a fairly complex dial this time. Before, it's been, two hands and a hour, minute centered, and then a subdial for the eccentric seconds. This time, we're going to have the hour and minute hand will be centered again, but then we're going to have two. We're going to have the 24-hour Zulu arm, and then the 30-second retrograde. So anyway, that is going to be a little more complex, and I'd like to get it a little further along in terms of the design of it, and knowing, because we're going to have to know where all of the holes are, basically. I mean, before it was a hole in the center and then a hole over about 830 for the small seconds. This time we're going to need the center seconds, the center hour and minutes, no problem. The subdial with the 30-second retrograde, I'm not sure how the positioning of that is going to be, and it'll probably be different than, well, I know it's different than anything we've had before. And then how and where they're going to have the Zulu, basically the Zulu hour. I'm not sure how they plan to do that. It could be on any number of ways. It could be on a disc underneath with a little thing that was in the original sort of rendering that Matthew came up with. But in order to have something that we really can take to Metalim, we need a lot more information. Atelier Gross also makes bracelets. Oh, okay. Yeah. By the way, too, some of you may have noticed that there was a discussion on the OG page about somebody. I think it's the guy in Australia, Chris, Kris, Chris, got a metal bracelet from Ming in Switzerland, and it fit perfectly. It fit on our Etude number 1. It looks great, and so that would be another option for the future. We could look at that, but Hader, that's not a bad idea. We might have sort of saying, well, guys, I don't want to gum things up, but I don't want to make anything more complex than necessary. But once we get some deal on understanding on that, we could say, well, how much is it? What would it cost to have a metal bracelet? That's a possibility. The one that Ming has is really gorgeous and expensive. So we'll see when I get it. Okie doke. Hi, Apar. How you doing? Okay, yeah, that's something that I really haven't thought much about one way or the other is in terms of bracelets. It just my big focus was on leather bands because I happen to like gator bands, and I know that we don't want a gator band, not because anything is wrong with them, but rather importing. There's always going to, especially to the United States, there will be a big problem because of the fact that um, the sites. I'll put it that way. But anyway, so that's an interesting thing to keep in mind. Okie doke. Let me see. All right. Now, one of the things we found out, we have to get the Etude number 3 numbers right. Now, by numbers, I mean people who are actually want to go ahead with the project. We had about a shortfall of 32 people who had signed up and then somehow disappeared. And so we had gone over all kinds of places. We had no problem filling it up. In fact, our concern is that we may have overfilled, and I want to check with that. But what we got to do is I'll contact Rob and say, like, could we have what's the latest news? Um, yeah, we need the banking thing. Believe me, I still have all of the banking for Etude number 2, and it's very difficult. Uh, you get you get these things. Some banks will take a clip off of it. Some of it won't. Not fun. But we do have to get this right because we're going to be getting some major invoices. I think as soon as we sign a contract with let's say gross. It looks like it's going to be gross, I hope. And we'll have concept number 4. And then the other half of the study for the movement design. So we'll have that, which is I think is about 25,000, I think. And then we're going to have the first installment for the actual movement production. Um, so, and another thing too that we can add to that, let me add some more stuff and add some work for Abdul or whoever's going to take over. We need a really good way of having slots for our watches taken. I was thinking possibly, and again, this is up to whoever is going to be the next uh, coordinator. Abdul had said he'd do it, and he's a guy who's been with us since the beginning and has some knowledge of it. Some of the other guys too. The reason I'm hesitant. I don't want to say, okay, Abdul, you're it or anything. I don't want to name anybody. That's up to everybody. I mean, I think Abdul would do a great job. But one of the things for Abdul, some other guys, Hader, I think, and some of the other guys who had expressed an interest, you're working full time and I'm not. I'm retired. And so it's taken up all my retirement time. So I just want to throw that out there. But one of the things I think that would help, and this is to Hader, and I think he probably agrees with me, if we had something on our website other than we could have one. You push one button and it sends me an email. You push another button and it sends an email to Abdul or whoever's going to do the coordination. But I think another important aspect of it is that already we have gotten people who want in on number 4, whatever that's going to be. And so I think it's probably a good idea to maybe have some kind of commitment saying, look, if you want to really do this, it's going to cost you $100 or something like that, so that it's less than just because so many of the people who had said they were signing up, they ghosted us. and others, I don't know what happened. I know all kinds of things happened, but there was had no problem filling it because there are a lot of people who want to be involved with this. Uh, okay. Yeah, yeah, one of the things, Nigel, is that I tell you, there's gotta be something we better tell people, "Look, sorry you got dropped off the list." Because we have bills to pay, basically. Yeah, Donald did too. Christopher, he's been traveling and all kinds of other stuff, and, sometimes he doesn't communicate as much. He's also on sort of a 12-hour time distance with, the US, so we'll have to get Chris's he's busy too. See, he's working full time along, of course, Donald and the rest of the guys are as well. Okay, alright, so anyway, this is going to be something I'm gonna work on this week and with Rob and getting the numbers right and see exactly where we are because we still have lots of people who wanna join, and I'm sure that, um, the last sort of I had what was it? I had the oh, yeah, uh, from the video. I put out a little video about the kickoff, and we had like 45 that I sent an email to the first day. Huge number of people keep coming in. So, but we've got to get. I mean, this has got to be something. We can't have somebody who's just sort of, oh, gee, it'd be fun to have a Lyrique watch. We know that, and we know a lot of people who want them, but they're not. We have bills we have to pay. Okay, anything else on that you got questions about or, queries about? Thanks, Ader. That, it really I tell you, in a way, it's really been if you'd made it any better, we would been in more trouble. The basically, what I can say now, I can simply give that address and say, "Push that button," and I can get an email rather than sometimes emails, I'd rather have them go through Lyrique than directly. I mean, at least let it out that way because then I can sort of gauge who's really interested and who isn't. If somebody's not, willing to do that, then probably not someone we want with us too much. Okie doke. The final thing I want to talk about doesn't mean a final thing that you guys want to talk about, but afterwards, let's look at it. Paul and I guess Hader and Abdul and some other guys have been doing a lot of work on trademarks. We currently have a Swiss trademark for the name Lyrique for watches. Um, they had wanted to have more and more, and I said, "What for? We're not a for profit. Nobody cares about us." Well, I was wrong. Apparently, we're ended up being a lot better known than I realized. And so suddenly Lyrique has more value than I realized to a name, so somebody might want to rip us off. The reason I'm not overly worried is because for all the years I was in publishing, I can't tell you how many of my books somebody published elsewhere without contacting the publisher. So we get a book from Timbuktu. I said, what? They just would copy it. But we got to watch out for that. So I want to, the, um, what what I think is this, is that after talking to Paul came up with a list, and it was a big one. I mean, in terms of expense, I think it was around 7 or 8 thousand Swiss francs. Correct me if I'm wrong on this, Paul. I've got it somewhere saved. Um, and we have a reserve somewhere in that number. Now, here's what we've been doing with that reserve so far, and we haven't spent very much of it. One, we have been using it for, there have been a couple problems that people had with some initial problems with their watches, and the deal was I talked to Nicholas at Agenor. I don't know, there's too much stuff going on in my head. Okay, I talked to Nicholas at Agenor, and he said they would do it at, fix our watches at no cost or anything to us. But he would like us to pay for the shipment back. I thought, well, we'll use some of these extra funds for that, and we've done this with about 4 or 5 watches out of 70, so it's been pretty good. And the other thing I was thinking, if we do make nominations, we're going to have a $7,000 hit right away. Yeah. Yeah, it was around it was about 10,000, Paul. Yeah, that was sort of pretty close to what we have in the kitty. And here's my thinking. All right. If we waited until after the nominations came out, if we did make nominations, we could pay it right away. Okay, we would have the money available for it. And because otherwise we would have to go around and gather it up some other way. By that time, I think we'll have a little more understanding. Now, Paul came up with, it was around 4,500 Swiss francs to have sort of these major markets covered. And that's fine too, but believe me, everybody, I think I know that Paul and some of the other guys will, you go out and you say, oh, hey, by the way, we got another bill here. We need to chip in so much for it. That takes time, and a lot of people, and especially a small one, the problem with a small one, somebody had wired me like $100 or something like that. I forgot what it was for. They were going to test it. And I got it, and I noticed how much the wire cost or transfer cost for that little amount. It was a bigger hunk of it. And so I think, we end up doing a lot of stuff like that. So my suggestion would be that let's just wait until after nominations. If we don't get nominations, then we have that 7,000 or the 7,000 we would have paid, and then that we can set up the things that the attorney had suggested and so forth. For those of you among us who are attorneys, you probably understand a lot of this a lot more than some others, but there's something called a billing, and we would like to wait on the billing. Okay. Well, Paul, I think we should wait. I think I have, if it, what are we going to do if we have nominations and they say, okay, it's 7,000 Swiss francs? We're not going to have it. And this is why I'm suggesting that at least we could wait until after that. If they say no, then we can use the money for doing the trademark. If they say yes, we'll have the money and then figure out how to raise the money for trademark. Mario, yeah, you're right about that. It's not going to hurt anybody. Uh, but you're not the guy who has to bank it and count it and everything else. It is, you'd be surprised how much work is involved in that. And people say, "What's this for?" You know, and you're right. It's only like 100 Swiss francs each, but you got 100 people, and so you're not dealing with, you can, like, we have two or three clients, and we're a what I'll call a regular business, a regular watch company. We have to deal with the reality of what we are, not the reality of some business school model. I don't think we're in a business school model. Yeah, that's another problem, Mario. People say, "Well, what about us?" This was for the guys who are number two. They were the ones who uh, got theirs nominated, not ours number three. There are no easy answers to this, okay? Trust me. But unless I, I'm not trying to. Like I said, I've come to really more agree with their position, but I don't think waiting a few months is going to make that much difference. Is suddenly there's going to be all over the place. Plus the fact that so many countries, if they want to go ahead and do it, I don't care what a lawyer says, they're going to ignore it and do it. And I take this from publishing because that happened to me. You have the internet, you've got all kinds of things where people can do stuff, and we don't have the resources to chase somebody down and say, "Oh, okay, you can't do that." I mean, where are we going to get the funds for that? So I just, oh, let me add one more wrinkle to that too. Um, Here's the wrinkle: if things are, this number two has been more unexpected expenses that we've had. Now, there's another expense that we can't do anything about, and that is the exchange rate between the US dollar and the Swiss franc. When we started, it was almost at equity, but it's been going up, the value of the franc versus the dollar. The dollar is suddenly getting strong again, but I don't know. I mean, is that I just when you have something, when we're this close to the finish line for Etude number two, I want to get it over the line. All right, I really do. And I want them shipped out and everybody sitting with their new watch. Um, yeah, and rest of you guys, like I said, I came around to what Paul and Abdul and Hader and those guys who've been working on it have said. I really have. But I'll tell you, the reality of these things, and Abdul, this would be is something, if you're going to be doing coordination, believe me, you're going to need to pay a lot of attention to it because it's just, it's just other things. I mean, I wish we had a great big bank somewhere and we had, like Scrooge McDuck, we could pull it out and come down. We don't. We are all of us are in this to get a really great watch that we can afford. I mean, that's what it comes down to. Here we're getting a watch that normally would sell minimum 6 times what we're paying for the production of it. And all of us are volunteering valuable time. And bless his sweetheart, Matthew says, "Well, this is what you guys ought to do. You should spend 10,000 on a website, and you should do this and this and this." One idea that he did have, and I think it's probably a good one. Once we get done with everything, once we get it out the door, okay. And if we have around, I think it's around between 1 and 2,000 floating around there, he suggested we get a public relations person, not for us, but for GPHG. and that might help us. And then if we did get through nominations, just through nomination, my God, the visibility would go to the moon. I really would. Um, so anyway, those are things that have, that might come up, that may be things that, oh, hey, if we have a little change here, we could get someone who could really talk it up. Last time, people said we put in a ringer in the petite aiguille. So, we said the watch was retail for what, 9,500, and the limit for petite aiguille was 10,000. So, you can't do that. You put in a $60,000 watch into the petite aiguille just so you could get a trophy. Well, that wasn't what we were doing. We were thinking in a different way. And so we've got to, so that's why having somebody who sort of explains that these guys are really good guys. We brought, God, I tell you, at least 2 million into the Swiss economy. So we've done all of these kinds of things. And I just, Aloysius, yeah, there's all kinds of stuff that could happen. they, like I said, my background has been in publishing where copyrights and trademarks are violated all over the place. But so I think that if we can take care of it. Brian, yeah, we'll have to have a larger discussion about that, I think. Here's why, okay? I don't want to add anything to Etude number 3, to tell you the truth. I really want to keep our budget as it is. And it would be nice if we had some left over and we could use it for that. All right. The reason I'm saying this, I really want to see if we can stick to a budget for once, to really just once. Maybe something good will happen, like suddenly the dollar, because this happens before, the dollar and Swiss franc will go the other way. All kinds of issues that we have to think about on that. But it's something just for now. If we could sit tight with what we have, that would be an emergency if we came up a little short. Let's say that we got to the end, and we had spent all the shipping money for the U.S. and about half of Europe, and bam, suddenly we ran out of our shipping money. Then we could dip into this other thing or something like that, or we had some other unexpected thing. And man, this number 2 has been just a parade of unexpected, and we still have a whole bunch of bills we have to pay on that. So lucky us. Okay, I didn't mean to get, I as much as anybody, believe me, I want to get everything done, and I think, and I do listen to everybody, but I also know we have to sort of work together on whatever we decide on. I counterfeited a Studio Underdog. Oh no! But at least couldn't say Studio Underdog on the dial to me. I like Studio Underdog. Yeah, poor Studio Underdog. They I like them for all kinds of good reasons. Okay, now that was all I wanted to say about that. What I would like to do now, and especially for the new guys, any questions or anything, or and for the old guys too. And by old, I don't mean people my age. I mean the ones who have been around since the OGs. So anybody have anything? Like I said, new guys, old guys, anybody. Okay, by the way, too, if you're among the new guys, you are welcome to join the Air Zulu FB page, HEEUREZOULOU. That's the French for Zulu Hour. Um, me being the worst French pronunciator anywhere. But you're welcome to join us. I had to reject a lot of people because they asked them some simple questions and they had no idea what, they have to answer those. I think what the three are, the who your transfer guy is, the name of the movement, which is 80, what is it? 8650. Is the watch for Matu going to be pink dial? No, no, no. He's going to have a regular dial. See, Matu is going to be, is in fact, 6850. Thank you. Oh, man, my head is spinning. All right. No, he's definitely not. See, the one that we're giving to Matu is the one that if we make nominations, it will go to nominations. It's the one they'll take the trip around the world. And so what the idea is that he can sort of show it to all of the people who are members of the GPHG, and we want them to see the one that we're going to be producing. The pink one will be going to the Horological Society of New York, because one of the things that the executive director said, he said, "Oh, could you have a unique one, like the only watch?" And I said, "No." And then we got the pink dial. So, okay, we'll get one for you. So he's going to get a pink dial. Some good things could come out of mistakes. Okay. Graham, what I was thinking of is that the 6911 was the base, and that's a 68 or 69. 6850. Thank you. Okay, so that's why they don't just get a pink dial. There were 4 people. I was getting one. I simply took one because I figured that, if there's a mistake, I might as well take it. I got so many people wanted. I said, "Here, you take it then." And so I'm going to get a regular one. That's what I want. Okay, anything else? For those new, there were 5. The first time they did a run on the dials, they made 5 of them for them. They were all pink. So we had used a coloring. That's another thing we've all learned about in dealing with guilloche, or at least the type of good guilloche, and the coloring that goes on it is from a very different kind of palette. And Matthew was using a rose palette, and the dark rose palette looked very burgundy, like what we wanted. But somehow something happened with it, and it turned out a lighter rose, which looks pink. So then he got another color that on one dial looked orange, but then on ours it'll look like what we want, perhaps a little more brown and a burgundy than we had planned for. Okay, well, listen, I will go bug. What time is it? It's almost midnight with Benny. Oh, okay, you got something here. I was thinking about how we can have a bigger fund for costs that could pop off with Lyrique. Maybe create an extra watch to auction after the GPHG. A pink one. That is a good idea. I don't. It would have to. We would need one that would cost more than it would cost us to produce the watch. But yeah, things like that. you know, if we made an extra watch for another, let's say 90, what was it, 9,600, and then at the auction it fetched, like 5,600, we'd be out. Um, I think we might have, this is, that is, we could try it. That's not a bad idea. Um, One thing we might do in terms of the initial budget, okay? I tried to do this a little amount, but it's hard to, is have a little wiggle room in there for it. If that would be something that, in other words, the bills we're getting would include some kind of amount that we could sort of put in our kitty. That it, I don't know. The other thing, like we have, um, it's going to cost us, I think, at least 3,000 francs, Swiss francs, to set up the VAT return that we set up for Sandlight. The reason that it hasn't been set up for um, Lyrique yet is that we have to wait until we get the invoices to the Lyrique LLC so that we can then have something to show the Swiss authorities that we have invoices for it. The reason we can't use the one that we already have for Sandlight is that we have more invoices we're going to be paying, and this is what I'm hoping for the rest of the money we have in the Sandlight account is that we can. I want to get rid of it because I'm having a heck of a time using my business account. But what we can do, we got $21,000 back or something around that. Probably more than that. But it really helps that we have that. So once we're totally finished and paid everything with the Sandlight account, but before we're finished with it, we need to set up a similar thing, a VAT recovery. I don't know what they call it. Working with Mike at Admin Assist to set it up for the Lyrique banking account. So that's another expense that we need to have. And as soon as we get some more invoices that we can have to Lyrique LLC, I think then we can set it up through that. Yeah, you're right, Donald. That's exactly right. It is a charity auction. This is why I was a little worried about it. It's a good idea that Abdul had, but I think we already have the charity auction, and the charity goes to them. I don't think, Abdul, we can have a charity auction. We're the charity, um, but there's some ways. I think we have to have, in setting up budgets and things, we have to put in that budget something for these other things. Like in the budget, I put in 800 Swiss francs because we know we're going to enter into GPHG. So there are 800 that were in for the Etude number 2. We didn't use it because we had to withdraw, but this next time we have it, we're going to be using it. These things are a lot of balls to juggle, and every time you want to throw out one, you've got to see how it affects everything else. Yeah, well, it's something that I like the idea, but I think we can't be our own charity. That's another problem. because that's what it would be. I don't know. If we set it up as something other than a charity, we might be able to get away with it. I don't know what we'd call it. Okay. I got a little thing up here in my hat. Yeah, let's table that for now, okay, Abdul, about auctioning off for ourselves. Well, but let's, I think coming up with ideas that we got to be careful. I think we got to be very careful because all we're doing is collecting money that we will then spend for all of us to buy something. And the reason that's important because I don't want the taxman come to my door and says, "Oh, I see you had $1.5 million went to your bank account this last year." I don't want that to happen to me. I know that Rob doesn't want that to happen to his up in Ohio. Call it Lyrique or call it, pumpkin pie. It doesn't matter. He's the main guy on it, just like I'm the main one on Sandlight. So you got to look at all of the other things going on. Okay, just wait, put it aside for now. Yeah. I'm afraid they're going to come up with, I got to be up there defending myself on money laundering or something like that. And we're not, there's no laundry, there's no money, just watches. Okay, guys, anything else? Yeah, like I said, we have to, you have to think largely, okay, contextually on all of this stuff. Okay, well, listen, thank you. I hope that if you have any further questions, the Etude number 2, you guys are all on your site anyway, that you're all, if you have any questions there about, especially about the last part, let me know. And then for Etude number 3, if you have any questions about what's next, let me know, okay? Take care.